You want me to? Ah, okay. Music stops, and I pleased to address you again. The Assembly Chair has announced that the Assembly is adjourned. So that's true in full compliance with the Assembly rules of procedure. And then you may ask, why do you see me again here? And what can this be? I want to address to you. Well, the Assembly follows a strict choreography, if you want, and follows rules of procedures and refers to instruments, and we talk about hydrography. Well, we do, but on a very high level of abstraction, and if a non-expert would join us, he would probably hardly find out why those details and wording are so relevant and so important. Luckily, the chart exhibition and the industry exhibition brings us already back to the practicalities. If we go out of the room, we see what this business is about, what this domain is for. But we felt now 4 years ago, we felt that there's one facet is missing, because hydrography is not only a subject of those who do it and those who deliver hard and software for that. It is not first and foremost, but on equal level, a subject for those who take benefit from hydrography, those who do the practical implementation, or who contribute proactively to our domain, though they are not an integrated part. So that's why we invented, or we shaped, what we now call the thematic session, which is deliberately shaped to give this part of our greater community a voice. And this year's motto reflects that. Sea of change, innovation in smart navigation and ocean mapping. I'm likewise pleased and proud to announce that a group of recognized experts have accepted our invitation to share their expertise and insights, their reflection on how they make good use and take benefit from hydrography. The thematic session itself is split in 2 parts, and each of the 2 will be moderated by one of my fellow colleagues, IHO Director John Nyberg and IHO Director Luigi Sinapi. They will guide you through both of the sessions. At the very end of session 1, there is an element which effectively brings us back to Assembly issue, because it was yesterday that we agreed on the adoption of a memorandum of understanding between the IHO and Protected Seas. And after a briefing of Protected Seas, we have the symbolic ceremony to sign this MOU here on stage. So with this announcement, I'm happy to hand over now the moderation to my colleague. John, please take over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Secretary General. I greatly appreciate it. I would like to welcome everybody to the thematic session on smart navigation. This session brings together presentations from across our global membership. I'm really honored that we have the 4 people up here who are recognized leaders in their field and will present the remarkable progress being made on the implementation of IHO S100, the next generation framework for digital maritime navigation and data. So over the course of the next hour and a half, you'll hear from Bernice Mahabir, representing the Mesoamerican and Caribbean Sea Hydrographic Commission region on S100 planning and planning in Suriname. You'll hear from Natalie Balcon, presenting on S100 implementation at the Agency for Maritime and Coastal Services of Flanders. Antonio Delito, reporting on multinational S-100C trials in confined waters conducted jointly by Australia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. And last but certainly not least, you'll hear from Eric Eklund, who will address Baltic Sea navigation. Together, these contributions illustrate that smart navigation is no longer just a future ambition. It's becoming an operational reality, taking shape in ports, waterways, and open seas around the world. Given the richness of our program today, I regret that we're unlikely to have time for questions from the floor. I would, however, encourage all delegates to seek out our presenters on the margins of the assembly. Their work represents exactly the kind of practical experience and collaboration that is moving our community forward. So without using up more of their time, I want to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon and would like to begin with Bernice. Bernice, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will start with a presentation. I'm Bernice Mahabir, Chair of the Mesoamerican and Caribbean Hydrographic Office, and also Manager at the Maritime Authority of Suriname. Can presentation?
Who ended up with the clicker?
Oh.
You did.
Okay, so the plan, the S100 implementation plan, reflects the region collective efforts to transition from S57 to S100, while ensuring continuity and service and maintaining safety of navigation. So this plan is actually not a plan that's fixed, but it evolves actually when how will you say it? It evolves as we go because a lot of things are in development. Clicking? It's not clicking. So as you can see on the first slide, you could see that there's a pretty good coverage in S57 in our region. So the coverage is pretty good. You can see there are several user bands that's indicated there. Next slide. So before addressing S100, it's important to highlight the solid foundation provided by S57. The region has continued to strengthen ENC harmonization through the MIC coordination. So the MIC is the charting working group within the MAC. And the MIC resolves overlaps and improving cross-boundary consistency. So production has remained stable with increased ENC updates and improved quality control processes. Coverage has also been improved, particularly in coastal areas, ports, high-traffic shipping routes. These achievements provide a strong baseline for the transition towards S100. Next slide, please. So the S100 activities, in terms of S100, MAC has taken important initial steps. First one is the establishment of the MAC International S100 Working Group. That's a structured platform for regional coordination. And several member states has initiated readiness assessments and early pilot testing for S101 already. So there's also a growing engagement with S102 and S124, particularly through the MSI discussions. Next slide. Coverage and capacity. At this stage, S100 coverage remains at its early phase. There is no fully established regional S101 coverage scheme yet, although pilot activities are focusing on priority areas such as major ports and high-density traffic corridors. So capacity building remains a key enabler. The region has benefited from S57 to S101 training with additional course planned in 2026, including S100 implementation and S24 training. Strong participation in the ISO capacity building program continues to support readiness across the region. Next slide. So there are some challenges. So despite the progress, several S57 related challenges remain. So these include variability in calculation practices, increased maintenance workloads, and reliance on rank validation processes. Additionally, gaps in offshore bathymetric data and limitations in survey capacity continue to impact the coverage. These challenges highlight the importance of remaining strong coordination during the transition period. Next slide. So we will continue with some of the challenges, and that's for S100. The challenges are more complex, so readiness level vary across member states because we have 16 member states and they're at different levels. And access to tools and infrastructure is not yet uniform. There is also a need for clearer global guidance to support consistent implementation. From a technical perspective, there are gaps in experience, particularly with S102 and S104 workflows. Furthermore, the absence of coordinated regional S101 coverage plan that present a risk of fragmentation. These challenges reinforce the need for coordinated planning and a sustained capacity development. Next slide. So future works. In response, MEC has defined a structure work program for 2026-2027. This includes the development of a regional S100 implementation and benefits realization plan aligned with the global frameworks. We will support national implementation roadmaps and strengthen coordination through regular regional meetings. Efforts will also focus on harmonization, including sharing portrayal test results and aligning implementation timelines where possible. Next slide. With regards to future works, on the production side, the region will expand pilot S101 datasets and initiate structured S102 and S24 testing. Priority areas for early implementation will also include major ports, environmentally sensitive areas, and high traffic shipping routes. Capacity building will continue through targeted training, technical visits, and exploitation of regional leadership programs. These efforts aim to ensure a balanced and sustainable transition. Next slide. So, looking ahead. No, it didn't. Looking ahead, MEC is monitoring development related to S100 Phase 2 products. At this stage, activities remain exploratory, focusing on awareness and tracking IHO timelines. This approach ensures that the region remains informed while prioritizing Phase 1 implementation. Next slide. Yeah. Timeline of S100. The region roadmap outlined a phase approach. So 2026 focuses on establishing the implementation framework and completing readiness assessment. As indicated by Venezuela during the MEC presentation, we already did the assessment for readiness. So we know exactly which countries stand it's in which stage of development. So for 2027, 2028, we will expand pilot production and move forward early operational readiness. By 2029, the objective is to achieve a broader operational capability with an increased S100 coverage and improve regional harmonization. This phased approach reflects both ambition, realism, and consider regional capacities. So in closing, MAC is progressing steadily towards S100 implementation. While challenges remain, the region is committed to be coordinated, practical, and sustainable transition. And we will continue this work with member states, ranks, and the IHO to ensure alignment with the global objectives. So thank you very much for your attention. I think we do.
Thank you very much, Bernice. We have time in the slot for a question or two, if there are any. If you have one, please raise your hand and find a microphone. I see any. If not, we'll use time to ask the other speakers questions, or we'll take questions for everybody at the end if you think of them. Okay. Thank you very much, Bernice. Much appreciated. And our next speaker is Natalie, so I'm going to hand. Thank you. The bottom one, push down, yeah. No, this is Eric's.
Yes.
You're on the wrong.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you something, if this works, about the Flemish hydrography. This is the Belgian Hydrographic Office, which is part of our Agency for Maritime and Coastal Services. In Dutch, it is Agentschap Maritieme Dienstverlening en Kust, MDK. We are a member of the IHO since its foundation in 1921, and we adhere to the standards set by IHO for survey and nautical cartography. The Flemish hydrography has been producing S57 electronic nautical charts since 2001 and has been working on S100 implementation since 2022. Besides that, the Flemish hydrography also produces inland ENCs, high-density ENCs, and pilot ENCs next to paper charts. Here you can see our region. We are situated in Europe. Our Belgian coast is a very shallow water area with very irregular bathymetry. And the ship traffic is very dense due to the presence of our Belgian ports. We have the port of Antwerp-Bruges as our major port, and we have a lot of cross-traffic in the English Channel. So the port of Antwerp-Bruges is the second largest port in Europe, and it's a harbor located 89 kilometers inland in the shallow tidal estuary of the River Scheldt. I would like to show you some statistics out of my agency. In 2025, we performed 587 hydrographic surveys at sea, 449 hydrographic surveys on the River Scheldt. We produced 869 ENCs, and also our pilots, which are part of our agency, performed more than 55,000 pilot voyages towards our ports in Flanders. Our agency doesn't only have the Flemish hydrography, but also a shipping assistance division where we have VTS services towards our maritime traffic towards our port. We also have a fleet department with 45 vessels, and we have a pilotage division where we count 350 pilots. I would like to tell you something more about the implementation of S101 and S102 within the Flemish hydrography. I think we were one of the first IHO members to have full S101 and S102 test data coverage on our entire working area. In due time, the high-density ENCs and the pilot ENCs will also be replaced by S102 combined with S101. We still have some issues standing which have to be resolved. For instance, the mapping of dredged harbor areas and the use of single-beam data in S102 for silted areas remain a challenge. We are aiming for the production of full operational area coverage of S101 and S102 in the second half of 2026. In these pictures, you can see examples where we compare an S57 ENC with an S101, S102 representation. On the left side, you see an area in our Scheldt estuary, and on the right-hand side, you see an area on the Belgian coast near to the port of Zeebrugge. So you can see the clear differences between our old standards and the new ones which we have implemented. Depending on the user group, we also make differences in detailing and in the scale bands by rescheming S101 and S102. On the left-hand side, both for EGDIS and for our pilots, the S101 scale band is the same. But when you look at the right-hand side, concerning S102, we give more detail to our pilots compared to the EGDIS use. The colors indicate the different used scale bands, so our pilots get more detailed information on bathymetry compared to the EGDIS users. Concerning S104 and S111, the Flemish hydrography traditionally produces tidal current atlases for our Belgian coast and our ports, and we have operational models for short-term oceanographic forecasts, and besides that we also have multiple observation points. The first picture shows you the currents at the Belgian continental shelf, and the second movie underneath shows the currents at the entrance of the port of Zeebrugge, which changed drastically with tidal evolution. And for these existing data, the translation is now being made to the S104 and S111 layers. The Agency for Maritime and Coastal Services, and especially the Shipping Assistant Division, has also a long history with IALA. We are proud to be council member of IALA since the beginning of last year, and also the S200 products will be developed within our agency. Concerning testing the feasibility and impact, The test data S101 and S102 for our full area of responsibility is openly available through ICENC, and we would like to call to industry and the private sector to use these test data and to produce the hardware to visualize these new products in a proper way to all the end users. We have done a first test campaign within our agency in-house together with our pilotage department, fleet department and the ship assistance division. And on the left-hand side, you can see the pilot ENC which the pilots can observe on their portable pilot unit, which they take with them on board of the commercial vessel. On the left-hand side, you see the standard S57 visualization, and on the right-hand side, you can see the test results on that portable pilot unit of the S101 ENC, which is being suppressed, and the bathymetry S102, which is being shown. You see differences in the images. The pilots see those same differences, and their biggest remark at the moment is that they also want to see the depth numbers on their portable pilot unit. So it will be the software provider who has some challenges to give us the right visualization when we use those new products. We are now also aiming for the next level with an international Belgian, Dutch and English testbed with potential to become a sea trial area within the IHO context. The area we are focusing on is transnational. It includes the Scheldt area. I hope it's visible on the right, the picture on the right-hand side. You see the A for the port of Antwerp, Z for the port of Zeebrugge, and L for the port of London. So we would like to focus on that test area. We would like to cover the full chain of partners in a commercial context and focus on inland harbors in that shallow tidal estuary. I would like to conclude by showing you a movie in a few minutes, but first something more about that. As I have told you before, the port of Antwerp is laying 89 kilometers land inwards from the North Sea. It's a very dynamic river. It counts several U-turns before a ship reaches the port of Antwerp. And for decennia now, our pilots are using those high-density ENCs to bring vessels with the maximum depth to the port of Antwerp. You have to know that we succeed in accommodating vessels with a draft up to 16 meters in the port of Antwerp. Those 16 meters are deeper than the river depth at low tide. So that means that those vessels can only sail on the River Scheldt during a very narrow tidal window. And it's thanks to the standards of the IHO, thanks to the philosophy of the IHO, that we have succeeded to bring those very big container vessels 16 meters deep up to the port of Antwerp. We do not need to deepen that River Scheldt anymore, and our Dutch colleagues, which are here in the room, will be very happy because the River Scheldt is also flowing over Dutch territory, and when we want to deepen a channel, deepen a river, then it has very negative natural impact on nature itself. So thanks to the technology, thanks to the new standards, thanks to the under clearance where we're focusing on very intensively, it's not necessary to deepen the river anymore in the future. Thanks to the new technology, thanks to the innovation, we can bring the biggest ships to the port of Antwerp. And to conclude, we have made a small movie to show how hydrography in our field of expertise and in our area looks like. Can you start the movie, please? Thank you. Is it possible to have some sound with it?
Yeah, so while we're waiting, I think it's a good opportunity to see if anybody has a question or two for Natalie. If you do, please raise your card. I'm really impressed by I think this really is a great example of the versatility of our standards and real world benefits, so in action. So I'm quite impressed. Thank you well, good. Now we can see the video. Thank you.
We are Flemish Hydrography. For decades we've been contributing to safe and sustainable shipping. As an active member of the IHO, we help shape international standards and innovation. Together, safely forward. We support the development of S100 and S200 standards and integrate them as much as possible into our operations. Our full coverage of hydrographic data is unique worldwide, made possible by our compact operational area and strong collaborations. With navigation products specially made for pilots, we safely guide more than 50,000 vessels through the Western Scheldt every year. Thanks to detailed depth, current and tidal data, ships with a draft of up to 60 meters can reach our ports within specific tidal windows. Our innovative approach eliminates the need for further deepening of the river. This protects nature while ensuring safe access to the port. It aligns perfectly with the IHO's objectives, safety and environmental responsibility. Our first products are ready. Now we call on industry and partners to use them and to develop hardware for visualization. Together, we're building the future of shipping. Flemish Hydrography, together safely forward, for the shipping of tomorrow.
Thank you very much. A very impressive presentation, and I'm happy we got the video to work. I think I saw one question at least, and we have time for that. Please, Estonia.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm very impressed by your developments. We got into a conversation, and can you explain maybe the rationale on having the high density data for pilots than for the other users? Is it based on national policies or requests from pilots? Thank you.
Yeah, the project started, I think, 20 years ago together with the Dutch colleagues. We also have the Dutch pilotage division, which is active on the River Scheldt. And from those days on, high-density ENCs were produced only for pilots. And it's an internal policy up to now that we only release that high-density information to our own people, to our own employees, being the pilots in our agency, and to the colleagues of the Dutch pilotage organization. I have seen during the conference that there was a very high plea also to deliver high-density data to external users. We will have to think about that. But we have all that data in-house. It's a real benefit for our pilots because when they take on board the portable pilot unit, they get in tidal information in real time. They put in the characteristics of the vessel they are on at that moment. They see, as I've shown in one of the pictures, the safety lane in which they can sail up to the port. They can see the maneuvering of the ship where they're on themselves on their ENC chart. So that technology is really a major help to bring those big vessels into narrow and highly used rivers as we have. But the question is clear, and we will think about it to distribute also that specific high-density ENC data to other users. But we do not do it until now.
Thank you. I have time for one more question, if there is one. Yeah, I see one in the back. Please, maybe two. Over.
Luci speaking in English. Two questions. One is related to a national coordinator role. I see based on the presentation that you do have that national coordinator role with all of the S1, X6 products? And the second, do you have a specific branch of innovation within your organization that will support all of the efforts that you are doing?
So yes, as a hydrographic office, we have the authority to produce our own ENCs, of course. We have good collaboration with the Dutch colleagues, for instance, on the River Scheldt, because they produce on their territory their ENCs. We do not have a special branch in our agency which focuses on innovation. Innovation is spread over the entire agency. And I must say that our people within the Flemish hydrography were from the beginning very convinced to support all the new developments concerning S100. And their goal was to have all test data ready at the beginning of 26. So we supported them in that. And I must say, within my entire agency, now we have a strategic project in-house which focuses on S100 and S200, because we also have vessel traffic services in-house, and we would like to take advantage of having the pilots VTS hydrography in-house. So for us it's a big strategic, innovative project to implement S100 and also S200 in the future.
Thank you very much. And then we'll take one more question, please. I see the card of Sweden. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Natalie, for a very interesting presentation. And congratulations to the development in the Flemish hydrography. When it comes to development of new products such as S100, I think many hydrographic offices struggle with the financial cutbacks and reduced resources. Have you been able to count on any in financial terms, what does it mean for Belgium when it comes to that you didn't have to dredge the river and you can take in more cargo? Is there some calculation that you could maybe share with us in the future or so?
I'm sorry. We have, of course, a small area which we have to cover. We only have 68 kilometers of coastline. We have a small part of the Belgian continental shelf. We have hard-working hydrographers and cartographers. And I must say that we have a hybrid system. We do depth measurements with our own fleet, our own hydrographers, but we also put part of our work on the market. So there's also private companies who are doing measurements for us. Concerning cartography, we do everything in-house. So now we are focusing on the production of S101 and S102, and we have one extra cartographer coming out of industry who works for us on a contract basis. So by adding only one extra personnel, one cartographer, we managed to have the production of our paper charts, ENCs, and the ENCs S101 and S102. So we did not put extra money in it, only the employment of one extra external employee.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the questions, and thank you very much for the presentation. I think now I'm going to, without further ado, turn it over to Antonio. Antonio, please, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, this afternoon I'd like to share with you a user perspective of an S100 in confined waters. Through the IHO recognized testbed and sea trial conducted at SeaSmart, the place where I work, which is the simulation center of Carnival Corporation, located in the Netherlands. And the project was carried out in cooperation with the Australian Hydrographic Office, Land Information New Zealand, the Royal Navy Hydrographic Office, and the United Kingdom Hydrographic Office. It's the other button, yeah. Who we are, Carnival Corporation. If you've never been on a cruise, it's the largest cruise operator with over 90 cruise ships cruising globally over 800 destinations. The picture you see on the screen is one of our newest vessels. It's called Sun Princess, 345 LOA, 42 meters beam, 8.5 meters draft, and a few thousand people on board, including passengers and crew. How does it look like on the bridge? That's a bit of a modern setup that we have with big screens, the integrated navigation system, right down to the windows. There's a few seats. Every seat has a specific responsibility. There's quite an innovative way of conducting navigations on these bridges with the pilots and the captains. You can see sitting in the front and then, of course, in the back, different roles. All of this requires some, of course, familiarity with the technology, but also with other more human factor-related competencies in terms of teamwork and coordination. That's why Carnival decided to establish its own training facility in the Netherlands. In the picture you see, that's the building where the simulators are. And of course, we don't have only bridge simulators, we also have engine room simulators. But in talking about navigation, we have 12 bridge simulators, mostly used for training, but also used for what we call port studies, and that's the section I deal with. That's when we have issues with sending ships to the ports, like Natalie said, of course not as deep as the container ships, but still very large, and of course operating with tight operating margins. One example is Melbourne, which has in the red circle there, a very challenging entrance of the bay with the tidal streams up to 5-6 knots, shallow waters, very complex tidal regimes in terms of datums, with different datums outside and inside the bay. Excellent, I would say, test area for S100. But before then, we had some issues in the port here with captains delaying the arrival because they didn't feel confident to enter with the peak currents at 5-6 knots. But there's no limitation in the port for that type of current. So the pilots and the company, of course, asked for a simulation. And we ended up getting the data from the port, bathymetry, tidal stream models, tidal height models. So very complex data that went all into the simulators. And the captain were saying, how can we get this on the screens? Eventually, we agreed on a corridor, 240 meters wide, that leaves some safety margins on the left side, as you can see. But on the official ENC, you can only have maintained depths, and that's also something Natalie has touched upon. And fair enough, you are inside the corridor, but what happens when you go outside the corridor? You can see on the right upper end of this picture, there is a a fin stabilizer. These are the stabilizers the cruise ships use to keep the ship upright. Of course, not pleasant for passengers to roll too much, but the moment you have these fins out, the draft increases. And if you don't roll, it increases on 0.5 meter. The moment you start rolling with, say, 3 degrees, which wouldn't be unusual in this particular scenario where you have swell up to 3-4 meters very commonly, so then you have an increase of draft of almost 2 meters. So 8.5 plus 2, it becomes 10.5, and then that area of margin that in theory should fit the draft of the ship, it becomes not navigable any longer. So then, excellent, as I said, a place to run some S100 trials. We, in cooperation with the Australian Hydrographic Office in this particular area, we had the possibility to load S102s, S104s, even S111s, and eventually also S129s, under key clear management. So we connected the simulator with the UKCM provider, OMC International, with their proprietary products, the UKC. And then you can see this is the picture more to the right. There's a red faint overlay that displays the no-go area, not only depending on the present conditions, in this case swell, so 4 meters swell, but also depending on the ship speed. So that goes much beyond the S102. I think this was one of the highlights of the test we carried out in combination with one of the future UKCM providers, or S129. Melbourne was not the only place where we carried out this multinational sea trial test. There was also Napier, New Zealand. I really have to thank the hydrographer of New Zealand who facilitated this presentation today, and of course with the technical staff made it possible to carry out simulations in Napier, which is also another tricky area, a smaller port with very tight margins for the cruise ships in New Zealand. Rotterdam, and of course with a lot of effort on the team of the Netherlands, deriving also from the port call optimization project. And then Southampton, UK, which is one of our home ports for the cruise ships. So we connected lots of screens, as you can see in the simulator, to ECDIS, the Ray Marine professional commercial pathfinder, and also Aussie Maritime ECPINs, together with the 2 ECS portable power units, PPU, Castor software, and a CIQ pilot. All of this in front of the rear captains, the rear pilots, but before I spend too many words on this, I have a short video that was released this week, which tells the whole story, and of course a video speaks better than my words.
So we're here this week at SeaSmart to trial and test the new S100 products, and this has all helped us to gather information to really help shape what the next generation of S100 products are going to look like.
It is a trial that brought together all the necessary stakeholders to the group. So we're talking hydrographic offices, port authorities, pilots, captains, bridge officers, and operational managers from the shipping company. This is a unique opportunity to share perspectives that otherwise would be confined into single domains. We have selected 4 ports: Rotterdam, Southampton, Melbourne, and Napier, for their different characteristics, where different currents, different waves, different bathymetric data would bring to surface different perspectives on S100 and different challenges and opportunities in terms of data to be tested. We're testing maneuvering, navigation in confined water scenarios. This will improve situational awareness and therefore enhance safety.
Our simulator-based trials allows us to test our procedures in a very controlled and safe environment, and we can check if we have set up everything correctly, did we align all the products, and did we code them correctly, and are they doing what the end user is expecting, and we can directly get the feedback from that. And also the end user can directly tell us what's wrong or what's not working for them. So that's very interesting, of course.
They set up a collaborative online session to hear the debates and the discussions. Hugely exciting time. We're shifting from static navigation to dynamic navigation, and that's critical because you don't want to be doing that in a real life scenario in a confined channel. Meaningful progress from this simulation will mean for us taking home some experience and evidence, and that's like gold dust really for us, both as a hydrographic office but also for the ports as well.
S100 will open up greater channels in manoeuvrability in certain confined waterways. And the pilots have been able to share their mental model, really, of what they're seeing in their port with the captains.
The benefit of working with hydrographic offices is certainly to gather the necessary knowledge for our users.
For hydrographic offices, it's been great for us to hear firsthand, having the manufacturers here to listen and hear about what the mariners think of their graphical user interfaces and how they could be enhanced to improve the display of the data has just been a really great opportunity.
It was fantastic to see how all the data sets came together and were appreciated in a real scenario with end users, trying to replicate what would happen on board of ships when they start using them in Australian waters. Having end user input allow us to go from theory to real use of those products that allow us to go back to the IHO based on informed input from end users.
Feedback from these trials and then follow that through into making amendments to the S100 standards so that the products that actually then are developed and produced by hydrographic offices will meet the needs of the users. CSmart have taken a lot of time to develop the week's plan, and I think it's testament to their efforts here that we've got so much really great feedback from everyone.
We're going to advance the industry and really make things safer for the ports, the pilots, the captains, and all the shipping companies as they start integrating this into their daily operation.
It's been great to meet with other hydrographic offices, the end users, the pilots and the masters of these vessels to just collaborate on this. It's been phenomenal.
The picture of the people being here on the bridge simulators for the whole day, being engaged, the excitement around this development is something I won't forget. It was exciting as I say in the video, to have almost 50 people visiting our simulation facility and all bringing different perspectives, as I said, to these trials. The results are, have been drafted in a report that's just been sent to IHO Secretariat and to the HSSE Chairman and Vice Chair. Hopefully will be shared within the IHO International Hydrographic Community. It certainly can be also be accessed through our website, which you see there. Overall, overarching, I guess, the main results highlight how important it is to work together and to get the inputs of the users. And the users are really crying for understanding, not simply learning how to turn on and turn off a layer. So the use of more metadata to understand what's behind an S111 layer or an S104, what type of corrections. These were the main discussions that we had throughout that week, but you can read more in all these 4 different areas. I really like, in closing, to once again thank the hydrographic offices of Australia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom for all the work that they've done for us, as well as the S100 technology providers, the pilots, the port authorities involved, and all those who participated in the project. They made it possible. On a personal note, as an hydrographer who spent half of his life in the Navy and half of his life in commercial shipping, it is an honor to present here at the IHO. Thank you very much, John. And of course, from the perspective of a cruise company that operates globally, it is equally an honor to be able to bring our direct operational experience and end-user feedback to the IHO at the highest level. Thank you so much.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. And we have a time for a question or two, if there are any, please. And if you don't ask now, we'll come back later and you might have another chance, maybe, but we'll see if Eric leaves us a few minutes. So, okay, thank you, Antonio. You're off the hook for a moment, but not guaranteed for the entire session. Next, I'd please like to turn it over to to Eric for his presentation on Baltic Sea e-navigation, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates, guests, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eric Eklund. I'm Director General for the Swedish Maritime Administration. And our topic is navigating the transition. I think we have seen very good examples before me, so I hope I can bring a little bit different perspective of the things. We start off with the maritime system in transformation, and that is always good to have a short view back before we look forward. And as you can see here, it all started a long time ago. In Sweden, we started systematically in 1643. So that is 383 years ago. Of course, everything by hand. And the oldest sounding data point that we still use is from 1804. So the oldest point is 222 years old. After that, of course, we improved, all of us, the system, but it took more than 300 years that we actually took next step with the echo sounder. And 30 years later, we started off taking the paper chart to a screen, if I just generalize a little bit. And the last 20 years, we have now tried to go towards the digital first approach from surveying through the full process to the end users. As you can see, the speed of the development has rapidly increased the last 70 years. And now we are just not taking another step into the future. It's a huge leap, I will say. The maritime sector is not just adopting new tools. It's undergoing a systematic digital transformation. Ships are increasingly connected. Data flows between ship and shore are expanding. Expectations on efficiency, safety, and environmental performance are rising simultaneously. This means navigation is no longer based on the single product. It is based on interconnected data services. Smart navigation is not about replacing charts. It's about integrating multiple data sources into a coherent digital environment. For this to work, data must be structured in a common way so that different systems can understand each other. This is where hydrographic standards play a central role, as everyone knows. The IHO framework provides the backbone that allows static data, short data, depth information, water levels, currents, military overlays, and other information to function together in a safe and predictable way. The conceptual framework is largely in place. Our defining challenge for the coming years is disciplined and coordinated implementation across member states, systems, and regulatory structures. The IMO navigation concept envisions harmonized collection, integration, and exchange of maritime information between ship and shore. For that vision to become operational, there must be a trusted and internationally agreed digital structure for navigational data. The work within the IHO provides that structure. This is not a future ambition. It is a transition that is already underway. The next part is a little bit about the Swedish perspective of things. We see Sweden as an island, and of course you can see we are not an island. But if you look of the trade, 90% of the import and export is over the sea. For all of us, safe and efficient navigation is not abstract. It's a foundation for economic stability, supply chain, and societal resilience. The structural dependency, combined with the fact that Sweden shares maritime boundaries with 9 neighbor states, shapes how we approach hydrography and smart navigation. Innovation must increase efficiency, but reliability can never be compromised. In Sweden, hydrography is not isolated. It's a part of an integrated maritime system. Survey data flow in chart production, chart for support vessel traffic management, pilotage, as we heard. Maritime authorities cooperate closely with defense, research institutes, and industry. Sweden's complex coastline of about 50,000 kilometers and archipelago with around 250,000 islands, just think what's below the surface then, are even important our military defense. This integrated structure allows innovation to be tested across the full operational chain, not only at the standards level. Smart navigation becomes practical when the entire system works together. So, to the core of this presentation is the cooperation in the Nordic and Baltic. The Baltic Sea is a semi-enclosed and heavy traffic sea area. It's around 2,000 to 3,000 ships moving at any given time, and the boundaries by multiple coastal states. This creates a shared operational environment where risk, infrastructure, environmental concerns are interconnected. For decades, hydrographic offices in the region have built a strong tradition of cooperation through the Baltic Sea Hydrographic Commission. Smart navigation in such an environment cannot be national. It must be coordinated. This insight was our standing point for what we called sea traffic management about 15 years ago. Building on this foundation, coastal states have coordinated survey planning, harmonized charts and ENCs, and aligned reference systems. Today we cooperate in operational testing of digital navigation services in real traffic environments. This includes cross-border testing where system data and services must function seamlessly across national borders. Innovation in this context is not isolated. It is enabled by structured collaboration platforms that allow countries with different starting points to move forward together. We soon realized that managing maritime traffic is challenging. But if we manage how navigational data is structured and shared, smart navigation services can become useful and a trusted tool for mariners to choose. Building on the shared survey framework in the Baltic Sea and the early sea traffic management initiatives, the region gradually moved from coordinating of data collection to coordinating of digital services. First, we aligned how we survey and reference our waters. Then we aligned how we structure and share data. Finally, we integrated static chart information with dynamic elements such as updated depth, water levels, currents into a coherent operational view. What's important is not the individual data layers, it is the integration. In the Baltic Sea eNav project, we have recently tested such S100 integration in operational cross-border scenarios using a full mission bridge simulator and in real-life sea trial on board ferry between Finland and Sweden. Under testing showed measurable added value, increased situational awareness, and larger safety margin near shallow waters. 60% reported an impact on route choices, 75% on route monitoring. Participants highlighted more navigatable waters, open up for alternative routes, and the ability to sail closer to fairway limits with greater confidence. Efficiency effects were also observed, including improved route optimizations and indications of reduced workload. The testing also revealed harmonization challenges at borders and the importance of clear data quality indication. Operational feedback was systematically collected and used to refine both the technical configuration and the services and the governance arrangement behind them. This is where smart navigation moves from concept to operational reality and where standards prove their value in practice. The operational testing we just have discussed did not happen in isolation. Regional cooperation has been supported by structured project platforms, often with co-financing mechanisms that enables coordinated efforts and shared ambitions across the region, including partners with more limited capacity that might otherwise not have been able to move in the same pace. This has allowed countries to modernize production system, align our vertical reference systems, and prepare for next generation of digital navigation services. The key lesson is that implementation is most effective when it's coordinated, transparent, and built on shared technical foundations. Of course, there are nations represented in this room, and we have seen a little bit examples of that today, that have been earlier and led the way towards S100 implementation. Maybe what sets us and our neighbors apart from the regional is the regional cooperation, which has frequently been highlighted within the IHO as an example on how member states can get things done together. Not only by agreeing on standards, but implementing them collectively. The lessons is that implementation across borders become realistic when trust, technical agreement, and shared ambitions are built over time. Innovation with responsibility. Innovation in navigation is not optional. The maritime sector is moving towards increasingly digital, interconnected, and data-driven systems. But navigation is safety-critical infrastructure, so reliability, predictability, and trust cannot be compromised. The challenge is therefore not only technical development, it is disciplined implementation. Innovation must be managed in a way that maintains operational continuity while building the next generation of digital services. For many hydrographic offices, the transition to S100 is not a clean shift from one system to another. Member states start from different technical and financial positions. Some can implement advanced digital layers quickly. Others require more time and structured support. Existing short services must remain reliable. Navigation does not stop at national borders, and mariners expect a seamless experience when sailing from one coastal state to another. A responsible approach therefore requires not only national implementation plans, but collaborative and cross-border harmonization of products, services, and timelines. It's also required governance, clarity, clear roles, responsibility, and decision pathways, so that implementation is predictable and transparent. Only then will implementation be inclusive, coordinated, and paced in a way that strengthens the system across regions and ultimately at a global level. Managing these transitions responsibility requires strengthening the enablers that reduce fragmentation and risks. Shared distribution and validation mechanisms, such as the ranks, help ensure consistency, quality control, and predictability on how digital products are delivered. The IHO Infrastructure Center is being established to stabilize and manage the critical technical components that underpin the S100 ecosystem. This provides the structural backbone needed for interoperable and secure digital navigation services at a global scale. A clear and goal-based governance framework ensures transparency and consistency, while allowing member states flexibility in how they implement services. In safety-critical navigation, risk management and resilience must be built into the architecture itself. That is precisely what these shared enablers are designed to provide. These enablers are what allow smart navigation to function seamlessly across borders while maintaining trust in the system. And just a little bit on 2032. If we look ahead in 2032, the horizon of the IHO new strategic plan, smart navigation should no longer be described as a transition. It should start to become an operational reality. By then, digital navigation services should function seamlessly across regions, supported by stable and trusted technical backbone. The goal is not constant change. The goal is a predictable and reliable digital infrastructure that enables evolution. By 2032, the IMO community should be recognized not only for technical excellence, but for its ability to turn agreed standards into global reliable services. The regional hydrographic commissions are a particular strength for the IHO compared to many international intergovernmental organizations. They provide a structured regional layer where coordination, trust building and practical alignment take place close to operational realities. Empowered and well-connected regional hydrographic commissions help translating global standard into harmonized regional implementation. This is how implementation discipline turns standards into operational capability. The IHO of 2032 must remain inclusive and collaborative. Digital transformation must not create new divides. But good governance within the organization itself is equally important. Clear mandates, financial transparency, professional secretariat management, and trusted working relationships are what allow technical excellence to translate into long-term stability. A stable and well-organized organization provides predictability for member states and confidence for the partners. Resilience must therefore be built not only into the technical system, but also into institutional structures and leadership culture. An inclusive, disciplined, and well-governed IHO will ensure that smart navigation strengthens safety, efficiency, and trust across the global maritime community. And just one observation from the exhibition downstairs. When you walk around, I don't know what you feel when you go around and look what's in the stands from the member states. My feeling is that compared to earlier, the thing is happening as we speak. So it's fantastic to see everyone is going forward, and we have some excellent examples here, even here today. So look back sometimes to see what we have achieved, but I think also we should go look forward to see a great future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Definitely have a few moments for questions. But I'd like to say that if you were not convinced, I hope you are now. I think we've seen some excellent examples of how S100 is being used in different environments for different purposes, including planning and some challenges and a little bit of history in there. We're really on the road to S100 reality. It's so wonderful to see all of it coming to life and already alive in a lot of ways. I think we've had some excellent examples of that here. I also would note in a few of the presentations, there were mentions of regional coordination and the importance of regional coordination. So we've looked at some specific localized geographies and expanded out to where several different countries are involved. But in every case that you heard about today, there was more than one country that was working together to make S100 a reality for their region. So with that, we definitely have a few moments for questions, so please now is the time. And I think I would sure, start with, is that Romania?
Venezuela.
Oh, Venezuela, sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Director. Venezuela will speak in Spanish.
I'm not sure if there's translation for this session, Venezuela, sorry. I don't believe there is.
No hay.
It is, are they working? Okay, they are on.
Sí,
Thank
hay
you.
traducción.
Please proceed. Yeah, thank you.
¿Sí me copian? Ok, mi pregunta iba orientada. Durante la presentación, uno de los detalles importantes para la transición de la S100 hablaba el presentador, que de antemano lo felicito por tan excelente presentación, que le abre los ojos y nos muestra una hoja de ruta a los países que estamos dando los primeros pasos en torno al estándar S100. Usted conversaba sobre la importancia de integrar los datos y nosotros en nuestros países se ha vuelto una necesidad de saber cuál es la fuente de los datos. Datos como corriente, marea, datos meteorológicos, que sabemos que son los datos que alimentan en sí y que hacen dinámico el estándar S100. Y la pregunta da asociada porque nosotros creemos en Venezuela que para poder hacernos de esos datos no solo es responsabilidad del Servicio Geográfico Nacional, sino que tenemos que integrar el resto de las instituciones del país. Y creemos que la solución es crear unos comités nacionales para poder hacernos de esos datos y alimentar el estándar S100. Muchas gracias.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I think that we could take turns answering that. And sure, Antonio, please.
Thank you for your comment. Indeed, in the case I've shown, we had data from the Hydrographic Office. That means the Hydrographic Office created data, the S102 specifically, on the basis of the bathymetry they received from the port. But then when it comes to tidal stream models or complex tidal regimes, that might go a bit beyond the traditional scope of an hydrographic office. So that's in that particular case that you've seen, we obtained data from another agency outside that has the hydrodynamics model, flow models for the entrance of the bay, not only in terms of currents, but also in terms of elevations. And the S104 and S111 were derived from that model. And we could compare the S104 and S111 only produced from astronomical predictions of the Hydrographic Office. And then that showed, that comparison showed that there's quite a difference there. So what I'm trying to say is that indeed, S101 and S102 may be well within the traditional competencies of hydrographic offices, but then when you start moving outside into other domains, then the interconnection between not only government agencies, but service providers, engineering companies, who are producing or hold this data becomes essential. And then in the specific case, again, of the S111 data set compiled from these hydrodynamics models, we had to tweak it quite a few times because, of course, external agencies, they might have less competencies in creating the catalog files that are required to be loaded on the ACTIS, as we experienced during this test bed phase before the sea trials.
Yes, concerning the data, in our case, and in Belgium and Flanders, we have our own bathymetric data, our own tidal information, our own currents data. We have a cooperation with the meteorological office where we have weather conditions, also meteorologists out of the Belgian Meteorological Institute work at our agency, we have a corporation. They provide the personnel, and we provide desks, and we pay them some money. So, but it's a corporation also with university, for instance. Also with the Netherlands, all our tidal data on the River Scheldt is in a framework where we have a very close cooperation with the Netherlands, but that exists for decades already. So for us, it's not new, not connected with the new standards. We have all that data already for a long time, and you have to trust the data, you have to trust your partners, and that's a real focus. And once that's in place, then work is much easier, I think.
Yeah, I think in short, the product is only as good as the data behind it. So a very good point. Thank you very much for the comment. Yes, please, Bangladesh.
Thank you for a very good presentation by the team, and I commend you all. Actually, by the presentation, we learned that how one region has been well planned or advanced. So I will request IHO to look into the matters so that each region can get support from this sort of professional team. You understand that 3 years from now, if we fast forward, we see how the safe navigation and or the shipping movements will depend largely on this system, right? So I have learned a good system you have worked on, and you have made a roadmap where you will be achieving in 2 years' time a workable solution. But many of the countries or many of the regions are not as prepared like the way we see it today. So I request to IHO, by region, you can have a team to go and deliver a lecture or get some of the case study how to improve in that particular region. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. I appreciate that, Bangladesh. We'll have to, I think, talk a little bit more about that as we move forward, and maybe when we see each other in a few weeks. Thank you. Question?
Maybe all that I can say from, again, the community of the users I belong to is that we look forward to repeating the effort that we made maybe annually. Not trying to promise anything now, but there was already a good number of hydrographic officers who approached me saying if we could do something with the ports they're responsible for, and I believe that this could be an occasion for hydrographic officers who have not yet developed that expertise to start engaging with us, especially where there are ports of interest of my company, of course. So.
Thank you. Any more questions? We have time for one more, maybe two. Okay. Well, thank you. I want to just take a moment to thank our presenters. I thought a very excellent round of presentations. Apologies for the few hiccups up here, and I guess. Luigi, I'm happy to go first to work out some of the kinks before you come up. Between now we will have a signing with Protected Seas. So I don't know if Protected Seas is in the room right now. Otherwise, we may have to wait a few minutes. Yep, Virgil, please come up. And I think if you all are excused, thank you so much.
So please don't run away. We will not only sign a sheet of paper before that, we will get a briefing what exciting things is Protected Sea delivering.
You moderate that? Thank you. No, I think it's you, but
it's me.
But I'm happy to sit here and do whatever.
Are we doing the presentation first?
Yeah, let's do the present. We'll let him do the presentation first.
Yeah, but that looks a bit like that everybody. Again, please keep seated. It will be brief but interesting and new for many of you. And we have the real man for presenting, the technical director of Protected Seas, Virgil Zetterlin, and he will invite us in the scope of work of Protected Seas. And then we will go straight forward to sign the MOU as decided by Assembly. So, please, Virgil, I hope you can read against the common noise.
That's all right.
Yeah. You have the clicker?
All set.
Yeah, all set. Great. Go.
Right. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Virgil Zetterlin, Director at Protected Seas, and I'm very grateful to be here this afternoon with distinguished ministers, delegates, observers, industry, and our partners. It's very exciting to be having this signing ceremony, which culminates many years of effort already together between the IHO and Protected Seas. This is a milestone not only for our organizations, but also for the mariners and the ocean ecosystems that this collaboration ultimately serves. So why this partnership at this time? Marine protected areas are expanding at an unprecedented pace. So you may not know there are already over 16,000 marine protected areas and other effective conservation measures in place that cover about 10% of the global ocean. The international community has committed to raising that total to 30% by 2030. Whether they make that goal or not, this area is only going to increase. We also have the new High Seas Treaty that has entered into force as of January this year, allowing the creation of MPAs in areas beyond national jurisdiction. So for mariners, this creates real operational consequences: entry restrictions, speed limits, anchoring prohibitions, and discharge rules, to name a few, that apply across thousands of areas worldwide. Today, that information isn't consistently or reliably available in the electronic navigation charts and planning products on the bridge or the back of bridge. This partnership is one step towards helping close that gap. So, there's sort of two major gaps in this, and this again motivating our partnership. The IHO and its members were very forward-thinking in creating S122 as part of the S100 family of products. Previously, the IUCN's World Database of Protected Areas was arguably the only global standard for marine protected areas, but it was never designed for operational use, particularly operational use at sea. S122 provides the necessary structure and format to encode activity restrictions and regulations in a standardized way for direct action on ECDIS by people, but also in future unmanned surface vessel or even undersea vessel systems. As a 9-year member on the Nautical Information Provision Working Group, Protected Seas is excited to see S122 moving towards operational status along with S100. So beyond the standards gap, there's also a data gap. So while S122 provides the framework or the data model to encode marine protected area regulations, those regulations themselves are highly fragmented across countries and coastal territories, which creates an additional barrier to implementation. Hydrographic offices in member states are rapidly building capacity for S122, but in this time, Protected Seas, we bring regulatory expertise, global coverage, and a deep understanding of the existing legal frameworks. This MOU recognizes the power of IHO and Protected Seas working together formally and collaboratively with a shared purpose to help transition S122 to operation on an accelerated basis. For those of you who aren't familiar, Protected Seas has spent the last decade building the Navigator platform. Navigator is the world's most comprehensive collection of marine protected and managed area regulations built against a standardized data model. We currently have over 30,000 individual areas, including not only marine protected areas, but many other forms of marine management, including fisheries management, water quality, and others. To date, we've invested over 50 person-years of original research in gathering this data from management authorities worldwide. If we printed all of our information out, we estimate around 12,000 pages worth of summarized and encoded regulations. And interestingly enough, even though these are areas, many of them, it turns out, have not been digitally mapped in publicly accessible format. So our team has also digitized nearly 3,000 at this point boundaries so that they could be digitally represented. Within the database, we encode more than 25 different types of human activity relevant to navigation. This includes entry, anchoring, speed, discharge, about 15 different types of fishing gear and whether they're restricted, allowed, or prohibited in an area, and many more. Again, all in a globally consistent data model, and all research to be open access for shareability. Since 2017, we've been helping produce test S122 data sets to help support end-to-end service demonstrations. Particularly now, we do have an end-to-end demonstration with partners DMC and Hardis, providing S122 via CCOM services for testing. Today, we formalize a relationship built on years of shared work and a shared purpose. So what comes next? Again, we're excited to see S100 Phase 1 come into force, with S122 coming soon in Phase 2, which makes the need for quality, globally complete MPA data in S122 format very pressing. Through this partnership, we will work with the IHO and its member hydrographic offices to develop and refine the S122 data sets, help advance portrayal standards, and explore distribution approaches suited to the global scale and complexity of MPA data. We stand ready to help members accelerate delivery of authoritative products, and this collaboration will directly support the new BBNJ treaty, exploring how to provide authoritative MPA data in areas beyond national jurisdiction where no single HO has had traditional responsibility. Together, we hope to make navigation safer, more sustainable, and better connected to the environmental needs of the ocean. And so with that, again, I want to thank everyone very much, particularly the IHO and its members, and all the many working group contributors over many years to bring S100 and S122 to this point, and we look forward to continuing our partnership together.
Thank you. Thank you, Virgil. You are among hydrographers, and they are all born data collectors, and they know how cumbersome and how much effort it takes to keep the database right and all embracing. As this BBNG emerged, I met a good number of people on UN level, and they were very enthusiastic about that. And that's the first time that international law stretches to the high seas and so on and so forth. And then I said a simple question, but is there anyone centered to host the information about that and provides that for those who are in need for it? They looked at me and say, actually, we haven't thought about this before, so we don't know. We only want to have this system in place, but we have no means to do that. And then, it was not by random, but we were meeting, and I realized that Protected Seas holds all this information, and not only for the BBNG, but for the global repository. And I know for certain there's a number of coastal states, when they want to know what areas of your restriction are in their waters, they look at first on the website of Protected Seas. So anyway, we are talking about international waters here, that's for sure. And I would think this is interesting enough to allow for a short round of questions.
Yeah, no, I don't have a question, but I would like to say, first of all, thank Virgil and Protected Seas, because it really the beginnings of our partnership have really helped us to develop the S122 standard. And you know, as Secretary General's fond of saying, we have kind of a jailbreak here into different data types. So it's really expanded the use of S100 beyond navigation in a lot of ways, and it's really exciting to see that happen. So thank you very much, Virgil. I appreciate that from you and your company. We have time for sure for a question or two. If there are any, please raise your card. And if there aren't, I would encourage you to find Virgil in the hallway and ask him a question or talk to him about S122. And I think without further ado, we can turn it over to the signing.
Yeah, and I think Virgil was too humble to, in India, please.
You will be signing, the photograph will come. So can you change your tallies, please? Name tallies.
You are Natalie now, Secretary General. Right now you are Natalie. That was my concern too. I wanted to raise the same thing.
You see, woman in hydrography, so that's...
Not that fast.
Yeah, anyway. Okay, yeah, thanks for this advice. Indeed, for making picture. Now, what I was about to say, I think, I know Virgil for quite a while. He's a humble man, and sometimes too humble. I think he did not put forward the URL, the website of Protected Seas. No, you did not. Named Navigator, and I can only invite you to have a look into that, and you will see this is good stuff. This is really a great collection of knowledge which no one else has. Thank you. Okay, then we... Well, no, I did talk a lot already today, so I would simply say, we need music. Can you sing, or can someone switch on the music, give it a bit of emotion? So otherwise we will simply sign it, and I sign it on your behalf. Like politicians now, we shake hands. It's coffee break, is it?
Okay, thank you all very much. I think now we have a coffee break until 10 after. Please, is that correct? Yes, thank you, Chair. I have an expert here to keep me on track. Thank you. So see you back after coffee break for the thematic block 2 on ocean mapping, please, which will start at 16:10. sharp. Thank you.
And if you would, the website is navigatormap.org. So if you would like to see the live data, navigatormap.org.
And don't miss the next session, so it will be as exciting as this one, if not more.
So, welcome back to the second panel of our thematic session, Seas of Change, Innovation in Ocean Mapping and Smart Navigation. So good afternoon and welcome to this block 2, which will be focused on ocean mapping. As you know, the ocean remains one of the least known components of our planet. Despite covering more than 70% of the Earth's surface, a large portion of the seabed is still unmapped. Ocean mapping is therefore not only a scientific priority, but a strategic necessity supporting safe navigation, climate understanding, resource management, and global security. Over the past decade, the General Bathymetric Chart of the Oceans has significantly strengthened its role as a global reference for seabed mapping, and initiatives such as Seabed 2030 has mobilized governments, research institutions, private sectors, and philanthropists around a common ambitious objective to map the entire ocean floor. Today, we stand at a pivotal moment. As highlighted yesterday in the Assembly, JEBCO is evolving from a largely volunteering-driven program into a professionally supported global coordination hub with the installation of the JEBCO Secretariat, as we heard from the words of His Serene Highness Prince Albert II. The new structure will enhance governance, strengthen policy engagement, and improve coordination of global initiatives and unlock new funding opportunities. At the same time, we are entering a new phase in ocean observing. The recognition of depth as an essential ocean variable within the global ocean observing system GOOS marks a fundamental shift, acknowledging that bathymetric is not just a static data set, but a critical component of understanding ocean processes. Innovation in ocean mapping today is therefore not only about technology. It is about governance, partnerships, financing, and vision. And this is exactly what our panel will explore. I am honored to be joined by 3 distinguished speakers. Commander retired Victor Vescovo. He's an American private equity investor, retired US Navy officer, and one of the world's leading deep ocean explorer. He is the founder of the 5 Deeps expeditions, during which he became the first person to visit the deepest point in all 5 oceans. Through his expeditions, he has collected and contributed high-resolution bathymetric data to the global community, significantly supporting JEBCO and Seabed 2030. His work combines technological innovation, exploration, and philanthropy. Dr. Joanna Post, she is head of the Ocean Observations and Services sections at the IOC UNESCO and director of the Global Ocean Observing System, GOOS. She also serves as acting head of the International Oceanographic Data and Information Exchange, IOD. With extensive experience in ocean data system governance and international coordination, she plays a key role in shaping global ocean observing frameworks and advancing essential ocean variables. Last but not the least, Ms. Salome Mormantin. She's a Polar Initiative Manager at the Foundation Prince Albert II de Monaco, where she coordinates international efforts supporting polar research and environmental protection. She works at the intersection of science, policy, and philanthropy, fostering partnerships and mobilizing resources for ocean and climate initiatives. particularly in polar regions. To frame our discussion, I would like to invite Commander Vescovo to reflect on his contributions to JEPCO, focusing on data gathering and philanthropy, Dr. Post to address governance and policy in ocean mapping, particularly in light of the recognition of depth as an essential ocean variable, and Ms. Mormantin to explore fundraising strategies with particular attention to polar regions. I look forward to the engaging and forward-looking discussion, and question time will be at the end of the three presentation. Thank you very much, and I invite Commander Vescovo to speak on his presentation. You can speak from here, you can stay on the podium, and as you prefer. You can ask next slide, and someone will click on the next slide. You prefer the podium, please.
I'm part Italian, I have to stand up.
Okay.
Thank you.
We prefer the other one.
The ocean, one must constantly adapt to circumstances. So thank you all very much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be speaking to this group with whom I've worked with several of you. In fact, some of the members here have actually served on my research vessel as oceanographers. With that, the next slide. I'll first speak about some of my direct personal experience about contributing to ocean mapping. Next. I was privileged to have the converted US naval ship, the Indomitable, which became the pressure drop at the top left. And that was my submersible tender that we took around the world. And on the bottom right is the deep ocean submersible limiting factor, which was the first commercially produced and classed submersible that was capable of going to the bottom of the ocean in the Challenger Deep Mariana Trench. And as part of that mission, we actually did not know where the bottom of 4 of our world's ocean was, and this was the year 2018. To do that, I was able to enlist the aid of Kongsberg, and they put the most powerful sonar they had ever produced, the EM124. I purchased serial number 1, and we were able to map the ocean seafloor, identify the deepest points in all the oceans, and then dive them. This shows what we did over 4 years. We made 2 circumnavigations around the globe, in some respects trying to mimic what our wonderful British cousins did with the HMS Beagle and the HMS Challenger, trying to investigate the world that we live in. It still amazes me that we are now in the year 2026 and 74% of the ocean is still completely unmapped and unexplored. 71% of planet Earth is ocean. If you multiply those 2 numbers, half of planet Earth is still completely unmapped and unexplored in the year 2026. This is something that is extraordinary to me, and as a private individual, as well as others like me, like Ray Dalio, Kel Rookie, and others, are trying to do what we can to contribute to mapping and exploring our planet. Next slide. Over the 4 years we were operating the pressure drop, we mapped over 4 million square kilometers and donated all of it to JEPCO. I am not an oceanographer, and it was a very interesting learning experience for me working with JEPCO and the IHO on simply how to do that and make it as seamless as possible. The ship mapped, and I personally dove in 17 deep ocean trenches. We discovered 100 new undersea features. And we learned that if we did that with the resolution that we had on our sonar, we had the right to name them if they were not in an EEZ. 45 were approved out of the 100 that we submitted. Next. I was very fortunate. The one I'm most proud of is that we were able to identify the deepest point in the Southern Ocean around Antarctica. And with that dive to the very bottom of the Southern Ocean, I was allowed to name that point. And as is tradition, according to the rules of SCUFN, we named it the Factorian Deep after the submersible, the limiting factor. And that's the approval right there on the bottom left. Next. I'm told that we submitted one of the largest single expedition-driven naming packages ever to SCUFN. It was over 100 names. We went through multiple iterations. It was a bit difficult of a process, to be quite honest. The data set itself, the mapping data we generated, was never in question. It was extremely detailed, and it was formatted by professional oceanographers on our ship. Instead, virtually every name was initially rejected. We had to do it again and again. And finally, it looked like we got 42 of them named, but the rest I frankly gave up. Next. It was a disappointing and frustrating experience. I understand. Skuffen has many nationalities on it. It's a very thorough process, but one would hope that it can be made much more efficient and transparent and flexible in the future, because a heck of a lot more of the seafloor is going to be mapped in the next 10 years, and I'll explain why. So the role of the private sector in mapping. Many of you are associated with governments, with navies, but there is a rise of individuals like myself who have the means to construct and operate oceanographic survey vessels that rival or even exceed what you have as nations. Next. There are many advantages to private sector mapping capabilities. We can be very open to being directed of where we should map. If my own country, the United States, came to me and said, Victor, we would really like for you to map as a civilian and contribute to Seabed 2030 the following areas for the good of the nation and the good of the world, I would do it in a heartbeat. And most of my fellow private philanthropists would do similar. We can achieve a very high operating tempo. We can achieve sortie rates that are usually in excess of governments. We operated continually during the COVID timeframe when other countries birthed all of their ships. We can have 2 different crews to maintain operating tempo that government simply can't for work rules or what have you. And we're self-funded. We do not have to go week after week, year after year, asking governments for money to do this project or that project. We are paying the bills ourselves, which makes us very efficient and can allow us to do operations continually. These are 3 of the vessels that are in operation or close to it. You have the Rev Ocean, the largest research vessel ever constructed, which is designed right here in Monaco by Espen Oino. You have the Falkor 2 by Schmidt Ocean Institute, and you have the new ship being designed by Gabe Newell that will be operating hopefully within several years. All of these ships are going to be available to do massive benefits for ocean research and mapping. So the lessons learned, the challenges and opportunities, there are many. The data can't just be collected, it does have to be processed, but we're getting, as a private sector, the handle on how to do that. The naming conventions are very confined and strict. I'm warning you, we are going to run out of things to name things. I am not joking, where the rules of Skuffen are so strict that about 10 or 12 of the names that were finally approved for an area in the Polynesian sector, I named after characters from a science fiction novel. Now they sound really cool, and I think that's why they were approved. But the point is, I was running out of things to name because I couldn't name it after living people. And there are only so many deceased people that contributed significantly to oceanography. Next. The process is slow, and by commercial standards to which I'm used to, they are very opaque. Here's a screenshot from the website as it existed last night. When was the data last updated on the website for Skuffen? It was several years ago. Commercial standards should be looked at in terms of having very clear data, updated constantly. It's what we need if we're going to map the seafloor and make it interesting to the rest of the world. There is little to no financial support outside of governments for just mapping. That's why we haven't done it yet. No one is going to pay millions of dollars to map the abyssal plains of the Pacific. There's no oil there. There's nothing there worth anything commercially. So it's going to have to come from private philanthropy. If you want private philanthropy to spend millions of dollars like I did to map the seafloor for the sake of mapping the seafloor, please make it easier and more transparent for us, and we will go to great lengths to assist this endeavor. Then there's this issue. Most countries in the world require permits for mapping with multi-beam in their EEZs. The number one barrier to scientific exploration of the ocean is not technology, it's not personnel, and it's not money. It's permitting. In my direct experience, permitting caused me to abandon dives in EEZs that would have been firsts, which would have allowed for amazing discoveries, simply because I couldn't get a permit. I waited, in some cases, over a year and a half for permits that never arrived. So I went elsewhere. I made discoveries elsewhere. I mapped other countries' EEZs because it was so difficult to deal with the permitting process of many of the countries that I will not name in this room. If you want your EEZs mapped, yes, I understand. There are security concerns, there are bureaucratic concerns, but us private philanthropists, we're just trying to get a rough first draft of the ocean. We're talking JEBCO minimums, 400 by 400 meter resolution in deep abyssal plains, 100 by 100 meter resolution in coastal areas. That isn't going to be a threat to anyone. Please, default to say yes to the permits. Don't make us go through 6 to 12 month processes to get a permit to map for free your own EEZ. Next. But this is just some of the data. 80 to 90% of coastal states require permits to map with multi-beam in their EEZs. You're not going to get it mapped by private sector doing that. Next. So, things you can do to wrap up. Provide us as private sector citizens. What are your priority areas? Invite us to come with a permit in hand, and we will bend over backwards to fulfill that mission for you. We'll bring your people on board. We'll bring your own sonar operators on board to look at the data, to train. Some of the people in this room worked on my own ship doing exactly that. Make the seafloor naming process clearer and simpler, because that's actually a carrot that we can put out to many people that could help fund our expeditions to name features after things that are important to them or people that were from their countries that contributed to oceanography. And then finally, I'll talk about new technologies that are on the way, that I'm personally building. I'm trying to design this vessel, which is a 23-meter ocean-going vessel with a Kongsberg EM-124 and a sub-bottom profile. It will have the most powerful sonar you can put on a ship. It can have a crew of 1 to 2 people. It will be able to map the seafloor. It's only a $7 million vessel, and it'll have only $1 to $2 million a year of operating cost. It would be able to map at 10 knots, 10,000 square kilometers per day. That's what I'm trying to build over the next 2 years, if Drix doesn't beat me to a better system if you're in the room. Next. This is also very unusual. The big problem in mapping is not the deep ocean. We have solutions for that. It's the continental shelf between 50 and 2,000 meters. I'm in the process of developing this wing-in ground effect aircraft that rides on a cushion of air that has a sonar on its keel. I call it the Sea Hare because this vehicle will break the speed barrier that surface ships face trying to map the ocean. It can move to 80 to 100 knots. It will fly from point to point and hop like a rabbit. When it's on the ocean, it will go in a circle and map the area below it. This platform could map potentially 1,000 to 5,000 square kilometers per day, depending on the depth. I'm building a prototype now. It should be flying by the end of the year. Next slide. Next. This aircraft already exists. This is built by a company called Terradynamics in Colorado. It takes off and lands like a helicopter, but it goes into fixed wing mode after a couple of seconds and can fly with the speed of an aircraft with no human on board. The idea for coastal areas is to put a LiDAR, a laser, in the nose cone, and it would simply go back and forth along the coast, mapping with visible light down to 30 to 45 meters. Incredibly fuel efficient and could map 500 to 1,000 square kilometers in a day. Next slide. Takes off like a helicopter, and then the wings bend forward and go into fixed flight. Extremely efficient. And with a LiDAR, you'll get extremely high resolution even in coastal areas. Next. So therefore, this is the last slide. I'm working on building my ship that could do approximately 2.5 million square kilometers per year of deep ocean mapping. Next. the wing and ground effect drone that could do 100,000 square kilometers per year on the continental shelf, and a vertical take and land off drone that could do approximately 35,000 of very difficult to map coastal areas. Next. So thank you and get ready. A lot of data is coming your way and you need to be prepared to accept it and hopefully let us in with permits to map it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor. I don't want to summarize because it was so fascinating, but I think that you left to us some key messages. Half of our world is not known. You are the largest and the biggest contributor to JEPCO and to the knowledge of seabed, of the seabed as a single person, as a philanthropist. For sure, our rules, and the example of SCAFAN is clear from your point of view, needs to be adapted to the time. But, and all for this, I would like to thank you, and we will listen a question later on, for your inspiring recommendations. And without people like you, we couldn't reach the percentage of seafloor mapped that was announced at the beginning of this assembly of 28% of the seafloor, almost quintuplied in the last 5 years the seafloor mapped from 6% in 2017. So thank you very much for this presentation, for being here. And I take the opportunity to give the floor to Dr. Joanna Post for the second presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. I'm going to change the topic slightly now and talk about international intergovernmental governance and the ocean, and specifically around the work that we are doing at IOC and the Global Ocean Observing System. With my IOC hat on, it's important to say that the IOC is a co-parent of JEPCO along with IHO, and we've been in the same boat together for a while now and working alongside the Hydrographic Organization. And of course, the IOC's involvement ensures this ocean mapping is grounded in science, promotes international cooperation, and contributes to this knowledge base that we need for many different application spaces. Next slide, please. I find that often, and I've been doing this for a while, and standing in, or sitting in this case, at the front of audiences speaking about the importance of observations. And observations are taken for granted by many people. I would say that they work so well that people don't realize how important it is to observe things, and to observe things systematically, sustained, and over both spatial and temporal resolution that is valid and valuable for decision making. And we know we need ocean observations, everyone in this room knows that, for safety, for security, for sustainable economy, and for survival. And of course, safety and navigation is the top conversation with you here, but we also need it for forecast early warning systems, for fisheries, food security, for climate action resilience, for sustainable ocean economy, research and exploration. As we've heard, we still have a lot to research and explore in the ocean. And we know that the ocean is changing with the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity, and pollution. There really is a need to observe ocean health as well. And I would dare to say that what we want to be observing is not deterioration, but improvement of the ocean as we move forward. The ocean is vast. No one country can observe it effectively on its own, and we do need clear coordination, collaboration, and partnerships within that space. Next slide, please. There it is. Goose is responsible for observing, or setting the stage, setting the raw ingredients for observing the ocean through its essential ocean variables over climate and physics variables, over biogeochemical variables and over biological and ecosystems variables, and some of those examples are here on this slide, with bathymetry very clearly an important part of those variables, even though it isn't yet in the goose family. Next slide, please. I was asked to talk about international governance, so I wanted to share with you this thematic diagram, really, and I must apologize because I realized that IHO is not on there.
You have to wait
I will.
the next assembly. Eh?
You'll have to bring me back for IHO 5. Apologies for that. IOC is, you see the different international governance landscapes that we're dealing with below the surface. This doesn't actually include WMO either, so I will, as a WMO is a co-sponsor of Goose, I will equally apologize to WMO at the same time. But this is really trying to get an overview of the challenges I think you as government representatives and governments are dealing with, even though you have agreed to all of these multilateral agreements, and the challenges that we have in coordinating scientific and operational information to meet the needs of these agreements. And as you see, it ranges from biodiversity to conservation. IOC is the UN organization that's responsible for delivering the scientific information in this space. But I would say that Goose is the coordinator of global ocean observing information in this space, which is co-sponsored by IOC, but also WMO and UNEP. And next slide, please. So I wanted to speak a little bit about Goose. We are really also, like you have been here with JEBCO, managing change at the moment within Goose. The systems of the past, we know, will not be the systems of the future in the ocean. That's very clearly been very identified by Victor, and we are dealing with a changing ocean, and yet we need to coordinate globally, and Goose has that mandate to coordinate observing the ocean to inform the future and to set the fit-for-purpose system in the future. Next slide, please. We sit, if you like, in this space as Goose, really meeting the needs of our member states, working with those who deliver the information, who take the measurements, and delivering the needs to the users. And there are many, many different application spaces. There's many different value chains or value cycles of information, and it needs to be, of course, co-designed and delivered in a suitable way for specific applications. And Goose recognizes the importance of operational systems, weather and forecasting systems. We recognize the delivery of information for ocean health and for climate decision-making as well. Next slide, please. The backbone of Goose, and this has been mentioned by Luigi, is the essential ocean variables. There are 36, and we hope very much that there will be 37 in the future. Bathymetry is clearly missing currently from this list. We brought, there was a paper published recently, which I encourage colleagues to read, identifying the essential ocean variables and the process by which information or a variable can become an essential ocean variable. We want depth as an EOV. There is a process. It's exciting now with the setting up of the JEBCO Secretariat that the work of the JEBCO Guiding Committee and the work of the IHO Secretariat can move forward to help deliver the specifications and put the proposal forward for that EOV. As I said, there's a process, so that there will need to be a commitment to maintaining the specification sheet for that. It will have to be delivered to expert panels for guidance, for feedback, for sign-off, and ultimately to the Goose Steering Committee for final sign-off when that time comes, and I hope it will come soon. Next slide, please. Goose is sets these, the scientific community of goose sets these essential ocean variables, but those essential ocean variables are measured and monitored over time by 17 different observing networks, supported by 64 countries. There is a huge number also of biological and ecosystems observing communities and a huge number of observations per day. And we do publish, and there was a new format last year for the Goose Status Report, and do please take a look at that. Just Google Goose Status Report 2025 and you'll find a very nice interactive update around goose. Next slide, please. So we work with the scientific community through the goose networks and through the observing communities on bioeco. We also work with our member states through national focal points and also through what are known as goose regional alliances. There are 14 of those regional alliances in orange here and 3 associate alliances. Those are groups of scientists working together around the ocean basins, as you see, the Arctic, the Southern Ocean, and the sort of area in the sort of southern Arctic, southern Atlantic there. Next slide, please. It's a very interesting and challenging space, goose, because there is a huge number of delivery areas, and we have to realize that goose was built from the ground up by the scientific community that talked about we need to know all of this about the ocean, but we all know that it's impossible to know everything about all of the ocean. So there's a need now, and that's recognized within goose, for setting priorities for looking at what are the application areas. WMO has its rolling review of requirements, so there is an element of application areas there that are clearly identified for weather and for events, but there is also a wider space to consider, and there is a lot of work going on under the UN Ocean Decade and others to take a look at this. How do we prioritize? How do we optimize that understanding? And here's just some examples of ocean data impact and applications, and recognizing the need that we need to be more vocal from our side in the power of what investment in the ocean space and ocean observing can deliver for science, for society, for various applications, for the economy, and so on. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share this one with you, not to sort of like, it has a lot of data, but we're moving now, I think, into a real change in the ocean observing space. I think it's being recognized more and more by people how important it is for economy, for protecting it, for with the signing of the BBNJ and so on. And goose really needs to change with the times, and we are trying to change with the times. And I speak now a lot to audiences around the fact that we do need to recognize the global ocean observing system as a critical infrastructure. We are working with a huge number of member states to raise that profile, and within IOC and with colleagues like IHO and WMO to coordinate around a unified data delivery system, because there has to be a delivery of clear, fair data under set standards into all of these spaces. Here I put it via multilateral agreements on the right side. You can look at it in terms of delivery spaces of that data to standards, public, recognizing where that data comes from, so clearly identified metadata standards within that as well to deliver to a huge number of decision-making spaces. Next slide, please. This is my last one. I want to recognize that it is a partnership, it is a community, and I'm really excited to be here at IHO and expand the community for goose, and I hope that that can be a mutual exchange. We're looking towards a sustainable critical ocean observing infrastructure for all. Goose is raising its communications in that regard, so we have a messaging guide now to explain what exactly we're doing, but we're also building a Go Ocean campaign with colleagues to raise the profile of ocean observing and the importance of it at the highest political level, and that's been recognized recently by the European Commission with the Ocean Eye program. But I hope also that GEBCO does become a partner, or even an IHO becomes a partner and perhaps even a sponsor in the future, because together we are all working to observe the ocean for providing valued information for decision making. And I think that's a very important point in which we can build our partnership moving forward. Thank you, Chair.
So thank you very much, Joanna, for this inspiring presentation where observing our planet was very well explained to be essential for a sustainable decision-making process against the crises that are affecting the planet and the environment. Not being in your international governance landscape is the real reason why you're here. That's we have to say that, and to see the depth as the 37 EOV is the goal of the entire hydrographic community. So, and as observing the planet is essential, it is time for the third presentation focused on one of the most unknown areas of our planet, the polar regions. So it is time for our third panelist, Ms. Mormantin, that will elaborate on the importance of polar regions.
Thank you. Okay. So what I will be saying might echo a lot of my fellow panelists and what they said. I'm not an oceanographer, nor I've worked in navigation, but we focus mainly at the foundation in protecting and managing the environment. And when we talk about polar region, when we want to protect and manage the region, we can't do that without data, without information, and everything is done with informed decision making. So we've been working in the intersection of knowledge, of research, of science, of data, with policy and with funding. And this is where I will focus my presentation here. Next slide, please. So I will start maybe with what I want to focus on. It's what we've, like the message that we've been taking from many experts that we've been working with. And mostly 2 months ago, we organized an event in Monaco, the Monaco Polar Symposium. We had more than 170 experts from Arctic and Antarctic together, and we tried to understand the gaps, but also the priorities for the next decade, and mostly for the International Polar Year that is coming in 2032, 2033. And what needs to be done, and what big flagship initiative, big flagship program international needs to happen. And I wanted to start here by echoing what has been said a lot, that it's not only a technical challenge, ocean mapping in the polar region, but also structural, because it needs knowledge from cross-border. The polar region, if we talk about the Antarctic, it's to anyone and everyone in the same time, and we need to work all together across border and across states. It requires for that a large collaboration, international collaboration, to understand what's happening, and it also requires that those data are able to be accessible for the decision making and actually leading to action. Next slide, please. So why polar region seabed mining, not mining? It's very important, and I think we can all agree on that, but the Arctic and Antarctic are moving very fast. And the data will be very much important in terms of navigation and safety, especially in the Arctic, new sea routes are opening, understanding the safety, but also the protection there. It will be very important also for climate and Earth system. And here, for example, the Southern Ocean drives a lot of carbon and climate action, but it's still missing a lot of data there, and it will be very important. And then it's very important for governance and sustainable development. So Just before this panel, there were an MOU signed for the data for marine protected area, and it's an example of how the data needs to be accessible and why it needs to be accessible and how it can lead to action on the ground. So more than just a scientific asset or data, it's very core. The seabed knowledge is very core for decision making, and it's very where we focus our work at the foundation is how we make those data available and how we make sure that it leads to this action. Next slide, please. So in terms of funding, we think that there is a lot of gaps, and I'm happy to echo what was said before, that there is not a lot of private funding in ocean mapping. If we talk about the polar region, it's even less, and we have only less than 10% that the funding comes from private or philanthropic actors. It's very little. However, the private and philanthropic actors can bring a different type of funding that sometimes public funders can't. And it's important to go more into different structure models, such as blending finance or providing different type of capital, different type of funding in a large projects. There is a lot of gap, and most of the gap that come from philanthropic funding in this time, and we did a mapping, it's for the monitoring and the data system and the coordination mechanism, mostly in the Southern Ocean. So we see that even more that there is a gap in this area when it comes to involving the private and the philanthropic funders. Next slide, please. We see also, and this came from the experts that we've been working on international cooperation funding and flagship initiative, that in the polar region, a lot of work is still working on fragmented projects or short-term funding cycle, and there is a disconnection between the science, the data, the policy, and the funding, and the operation also on sites. Whether actually ocean mapping, it needs the other way, so it needs a large-scale collaboration, it needs long-term because it takes time, and it needs shared infrastructure. So it's how we try to do the moving here, and how we can make sure that we change the way that we're funding ocean mapping. Next slide, please. So this is some key messages that came from also in the way of how we can fundraise more for having more blending, finance blending models, but also bringing more philanthropic insight. So the most priority that was on moving from project-based to programmatic funding larger project, coordinated program. Long-term funding is very necessary because ocean mapping cannot be treated as disconnected effort from different aspects. Then we had also the priority that those aspects needs to be decision ready, so it needs to be linked to maritime safety, ocean governance, or climate ocean finance, resilience, so how we make sure that these data are decision-making ready and that can be used. And this attracts a lot of private funders because private funders go also to the impact that the data is going to make. And then there is also an importance in building more complementary and coordinated funding. And this is where there is aspect that we can collaborate on, where the governance can bring the scale, obviously the science bring the knowledge, but philanthropy can bring more catalytic funding to projects, invest in early stage, and the sector, private sector, can bring more innovation into the space. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to bring you an example of a project that we're funding at the Polar Initiative that I thought would be interesting, and also because we had Goose here, but we're funding the SOOS, so the Southern Ocean Observing System, and a map that they're doing to make accessible the data to mainly the Antarctic Treaty Meeting, and how this data can be used then to inform policy and governance. So the work is very much to connect national program, international organization, scientific network. They have a funding way that they are funding with private, public, so they have succeeded to have blended finance in their projects. And this is to show the example of one of the kind of project that's philanthropic, or at least the Polar Initiative is looking for, is like working on with having more coordination and access to the data. Next slide, please. So to finish, the role of the Polar Initiative and the role of what we're trying to do is really to bridge this science, this policy, and this funding together, and to be a platform where we share the information and we share the priority that everyone has, to create a dialogue and also to transform this scientific knowledge, this data, into action. And for this, we saw that there is also a need to this kind of catalytic funder that starts with the first grants and the first, even without being as big as some government, but starting and then bringing other funders afterwards. Next slide, please. So thank you very much.
So thank you very much for this third exciting presentation where the polar regions have been described as not only attractive but really strategic for our planet. And also thank you for sharing the perspective from the Foundation Prince Albert II with which the IHO is working very tightly. So the ocean mapping has a primary role in the polar region. So two out of our regional hydrographic commissions are focused on the two poles. And we have heard also about the importance of initiatives like the blended finance that put together public and private. So starting from the polar region as the real bridge, let me say that a bit amongst the three presentations, I would like to open to questions from the floor. We have time, three very interesting perspectives, and please, the floor is yours, distinguished delegates. So the one to the back, it's not IMSO, because I know the Secretary General of IMSO is a very known face, the former Assistant Director Yves Guillaume for 10 years at the IHO Secretariat. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Director Luigi, and congratulations to the speakers for their very entertaining and interesting presentations. If I may, I would like to provide some clarifications to Victor's comments about the naming issues for the in SCUFN. So I was a former secretary. I was a secretary of the subcommittee of undersea feature names when Victor and his team submitted the 100 naming proposals for about 100 features. And I've not been fired because they were rejected. I just retired 2 years ago, so no issue about that. But yes, I must say that when we received the naming proposals from Victor, first of all, the first reaction is that for JEPCO, this subcommittee, we had to swallow a lot of data compared to the past, digital data. With regard to the quality of the data, they were exceptional. Using these features and the device by Victor, it was amazing. And I must admit that we had very good relations with Victor, dialoguing via email directly from time to time to improve the compliancy of the submissions with the rules of procedures of SCUFN. These rules are not strict, but they are as robust as possible. And by experience, I can tell you they are not there are some gray zones. So to improve the situation, kindly, Victor's team provided a new set of proposals that were submitted to SCOFN. And SCOFN is a group of 12 members, international experts in geophysics, hydrography, sedimentology, etc. These rules are applied to avoid inflation of naming proposals and feature names in the world. As you can see, the stars today, it's so difficult to find the Regal and the others in the constellations, and so they need to be applied, and the rules depend on the will of the member states of the IHO and the International Oceanographic Commissions. So these submissions by Victor's were amended, complemented by other data, and most of them were rejected. Some of them were rejected because of the lack of completion of the survey. As you have seen, these surveys were mainly done during transit, and the concerns of the 12 members, not me, because I pushed a lot to adopt the features, the naming proposals, was a lack of completion of the survey. So they were not able to say whether it was a single seamount or the beginning of a ridge, for instance. But the beauty of SCOFN is that the data was not lost. If not because a feature is not named, that it doesn't exist on the JEPCO grid. So the data were kept by our colleagues from the CDB, and so they are still there, Victor. So no doubt that your work is very precious for the community. And I know that in the following years, these features were reanalyzed with complementary data provided by other parties. So this is where collaboration comes, and I'm sure that in the future these features will be all named. So thank you, Victor, for your contribution.
No, thank you very much. And we, of course, had many names that were approved, but I think the clarity of how those deliberations are made, so there's a higher probability of features being named would have been helpful, but it was a process of discovery. So I only voiced the concerns that I did to try and help the organization because, as I said at the end of my presentation, a hell of a lot more data is coming.
Thank you for this initial part of Q&A. I see Norway, Evert, JEPCO Guiding Committee Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to Luigi. First of all, congratulations to the organizing committee of this thematic session. As JEPCO committee chair, I'm really thrilled with all three panelists and with your presentations. Allow me to respond briefly to two of them. I would like to start first with Joanna. I'm really thrilled about the fact that we have a process going on with getting depth as an essential ocean variable for various reasons, not least that it will then be another incentive in support of ocean mapping. And hopefully we can further investigate potential opportunities of working together on IODE, which of course is your main data repository, and JEPCO being a data repository, a gridded bathymetry data repository. I think that there are many areas where we could benefit from cooperation. And then Victor, good to see you again. And you share some really fantastic plans, and I know that they're not just plans, you're actually executing them, and that makes it all the more impressive. And because of what you are doing, and right now I think you are addressing a very relevant community, because you have in front of you pretty much more than 90% of the world's national hydrographers. So that in itself, to have a good, strong message, this is exactly the right audience. And you share with us two frustrations. And one was addressed already by my good colleague, now retired, Yves Guillaume. But even though he had the arguments to why it was frustrating, the reason to still address your frustration is still valid, which is we can expect way more data to come in, and as such, we need to be prepared for handling more requests for naming. And as guiding committee chair, I will take that challenge with me, and I'm sure it will be a lengthy and difficult and a bureaucratic process, but in Norway we have a classification regime that when it started, when I was director, was based on defense law from 1914. And they said, yeah, but that's the law. But if the law is not good, then you should change the law. So we changed the law, and that is possible. On the other issue is about data sharing. And I'm very happy that it comes from you this time, because in many IHO meetings, I have been an advocate for governments to evaluate their data policy. We are not asking for very detailed bathymetry. We are asking actually for one depth sounding on a soccer pitch of 100 by 100 meter on the continental shelf, or even 400 by 400 meters if we talk about roughly 70% of the rest of the oceans. And I think we see very positive development, and in the latest media release from CBET 2030, that is in the pigeonholes, there is a mention of first-time providers, countries that are now contributing to the JEPCO grid, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and other countries. And I hope that with the presentation from Victor here, that is an additional inspiration for countries to consider not to release their detailed bathymetry, for which everybody expects national policy, but to release a grid acceptable to you so that we can jointly improve our endeavor of completing this comprehensive map of our planet. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would like that Joanna will start by just saying that the audience is not an easy oceans. So you are here, as it was said, in front of all the national hydrographers of this planet, known by 50%. But let's start with the first answer.
Thank you, and thank you to the delegate from Norway and JEPCO committee chair, and I will learn your name after we talk bilaterally after this. Apologies. But I am very excited for depth to become an EOV. I think there's lots of opportunity for collaboration. I mean, IOC is already a co-sponsor of both JEPCO and Goose, but I think weaving the knowledge and the experience together for the future is positive. As I said, there's a process to get there, but I hope I remain stubbornly optimistic that we will get there. I think just to add to your point in that there is learning both ways. I've spent a lot of today chatting with colleagues about ISO 100, so I'm on that learning curve. And I think just going back to your comment around the IOD, the opportunities, we need to talk quite seriously about data standardization across many EOVs. There are metadata standards in place with our networks. We have metadata passports, but the data standardization, as we know, there is literally a tsunami of data coming at us, not just from bathymetry, but from other places. And I think that it's very clear that at the global level, there's a lot to learn and a lot to set in place in terms of standardizations that we can use the IOD as a vehicle in which to do that as well. And I'm looking towards how best to do that. You may not know this, but we've had some funding from NORAD, so your country people, to help us actually put an IOC data architecture plan in place. So that is definitely a work in progress that I see the opportunity to work with Goose, to work with WMO, to work with JEPCO, to look at standards and sort of explore with the national oceanographic data centers how to do that. I would encourage those of you in the room who are here that it is a challenge at national level also to work out what's going on at national level in terms of ocean observation. It's sitting in many different institutions, meteorological offices, oceanographic institutions, your own places of work. And I encourage you all to go back home and look at how national coordination of ocean observing can be facilitated, because we as Goose want to work at the global level and coordinate, but we need to be able to reach out to you at the national level. We do have national focal points at Goose, and we're setting in place at the moment national implementation guidelines so that we can build that better exchange to understand, set in place a sort of clarity in terms of observation requirements, and we know clearly where there are very clear gaps, but to be able to optimize the system for the benefit of those users and identifying what the priorities are in different regions and working at the regional level within that is also a work in progress. So look forward to working with you moving forward. Thanks very much.
Victor, the second question was on data sharing. We would like to hear from you, and after also from our third panelist. Thank you.
Yes, some of you know my background. I was a naval intelligence officer for 20 years. Okay, I get national security. I studied it. I understand why the delegates here that are experts in oceanography could be reticent about sharing data from a national security standpoint. However, there's a countervailing pressure. You want a JEBCO standard map of your EEZ if it is not yet mapped. And maybe you don't want to wait for your own governments to do it in 5 years, 10 years, or maybe even never. I guess the dream would be to have an easy permit process if all someone is going to do is map your EEZs to JEBCO standards, 100 by 100 in coastal, 400 by 400 in the deeper waters. That's not going to threaten your national security. And I can say that from someone that has a national security background. That would be the ideal compromise to make. But don't just make it a red line that we can't multi-beam in your EEZ, and give the data to you. That's what we want to do. And if you don't, we're just going to go somewhere else. We're going to go to a friendlier country. I'll go to my own country that doesn't even require, the Americans don't even require a permit to do multi-beam in their waters. And they should be as curious as anybody. So the other last point that I'll make has to do actually with the Arctic. The reason why there's very little philanthropic money and capability to map the Arctic and Antarctic is they have to be polar-classed vessels. We don't want to hit icebergs and go down. It's much more expensive for the ships to operate in those polar regions. We love going there because they're fascinating places. But the issue is it's just more expensive and it's harder to do.
Thank you. It's true, it's more expensive. No, I think on data sharing, what is interesting in seeing also how Antarctica is doing with the Antarctic Treaty meetings and SCAR, the Scientific Committee of Antarctic Research, all their fair data sharing, and how they're doing with coordinating data. One project that is interesting coming up is the Antarctica in Sync project that is around trying to standardize actually data for a few years. I think it's going to start in 2027 and standardize the data to try to map different things, and it's very needed. At least it's what I see from an outsider, not an oceanographer, and a founder, that it's needed because the ocean doesn't know border. So the data, it's the same, and it needs to be coordinated, but also understanding everything that's coming, like the difficulties from the countries. But it's interesting to see how some example that works in the Antarctic, maybe also high sea, how BBNG will work on that, would be interesting. So, nice day.
So, thank you very much again to our three panelists. I don't see anyone else asking the floor for questions. I want to iterate the thanks of the international organization for being here for this exciting panel. And if you can change the slide, I will conclude with some administrative information. After we leave from here, there are 2 receptions on board of the Italian ship Caio Duilio and the other ship from the United States of America, by invitation only, but the majority of all the delegations have been invited to the first. The second is by invitation. And just to recall everybody that tomorrow morning we will start at 8:30. 8:30, and we will have a tight schedule tomorrow. And please try to be here at 8:30. Thank you very much again.